is Dr. Isha Sood. She has done her undergraduate MBBS and MD medicine from Baroda Medical College. She has done her DNB super specialty rheumatology from Apollo Hospitals, New Delhi. She has varied work experience and has worked at Army Hospital, SSGPI Lucknow, and she has done research on capillaroscopy in systemic sclerosis. She has to her credit more than 20 national as well as international journals published in various journals, including the prestigious Oxford Rheumatology Journal. She is currently practicing at Kiara Rheumatology Clinic, Borivali West, and is attached to Nanavati Super Speciality Hospital as well. With this, I invite Dr. Usha Sood Madam to enlighten us on today's topic. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the Insta Medical Association for giving me this opportunity to talk regarding rheumatoid arthritis and recent evolving trends in rheumatoid arthritis. If anyone wants to stop me in between and want to ask me, I'm open to questions. So you can ask me in between also. Otherwise, at the end of the session, we'll be answering all the questions. Okay, thank you. So the today's topic will be introduction to arthritis and evolving trends in rheumatoid arthritis. So last 7 to 10 years, science has seen several new medicines coming in for rheumatoid arthritis. Almost 50 years back, we had almost only steroid for rheumatoid arthritis. Now with newer medicines coming, we have more than 20 to 25 medicines which have come out for rheumatoid arthritis, many of which are biological drugs. So the index of my topic today will be introduction, the types of pain, arthritis, how to differentiate, approach to arthritis, and then we will cover rheumatoid arthritis, early RA, and why it is important to treat rheumatoid arthritis early, recent trends and therapies in research for rheumatoid arthritis. So when we talk about pain, we have various types of pain. We can have bone pain, mechanical pain, osteoarthritic joint pain, inflammatory, periarticular, or neuropathic pain. But the most important pain which we have to differentiate other types of inflammatory arthritis. So the first step in diagnosing any inflammatory arthritis is we have to differentiate whether the pain is inflammatory versus non-inflammatory. So what are the points which helps us differentiating these two? So inflammatory joint pain is typically characterized by any pain and stiffness in the joints which is seen predominantly in the morning or at the rest, and acuteness and severity can indicate the probable cause. So this table explains us in all. So inflammatory pain is the pain which is worse in the morning. It improves with movement. It has prolonged morning stiffness. So that prolonged is ideally for inflammatory arthritis is 30 minutes or more. So if a patient tells me the stiffness lasts for only 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then this patient will not qualify for inflammatory arthritis. Then we may have several other causes, like in osteoarthritis also there can be morning stiffness, but the stiffness is usually less than 5 to 10 minutes in osteoarthritis. Now for arthritis, so we may have monoarticular involvement where one joint is involved, oligoarticular which means less than or equal to 4, and polyarticular where more than 4 joints are involved. Then we have patterns of joint involvement. We have acute arthritis, is 6 weeks. So any arthritis which has covered 1.5 months, so it qualifies as chronic arthritis. And usually these type of arthritis usually belong to category of active tissue disease, rheumatoid arthritis, or SPOND arthritis. Then we have different patterns of involvement, single joint, oligoarticular versus polyarticular. Then we may have additive pattern where each joints keep on adding. Like the first day patient will say it started from the wrist, the next day it progressed to shoulder, and then it came to the knee. Then we have migratory pattern. In migratory pattern, the pain will start in one wrist, and then the pain will get slightly better, and the next day he'll say that the pain shifts from wrist to elbow. But the initial pain in the wrist will never go. So this is typical of migratory pattern. Whereas intermittent, where he'll say that once or twice in a month I get pains, and they keep on moving. Sometimes I get pains in the knees, they get completely better in 2 to 3 days, and the other day I start getting pains in the other joints. So that is also known as palindromic rheumatism. Then we may have peripheral versus central. Central means when the axial spine is involved. We may have small versus large. Smalls are usually the small joints of the hands and the feet. And we may have symmetrical and asymmetrical. So that is a relative term. Symmetrical means when both the hands are involved. necessarily it should not be same joints of both the hands. So I'll just highlight the main arthritis which we see commonly. So in acute arthritis, the common arthritis which we see means the arthritis which appear in less arthritis or reactive arthritis. It comes suddenly. Most of the patients with reactive will come that, yesterday night when I slept, I was fine. And today morning, suddenly all of my joints are swollen. Then we may have chronic arthritis. This is the most important category which we usually treat. We have rheumatoid arthritis in this, psoriatic arthritis, connective tissue diseases. In additive, again, RA can be there. Migratory, typically seen in pediatric population, where acute rheumatic fever is a common example. In intermittent, we have gout and palindromic. Peripheral and central, in central predominantly we can have axial ankylosing spondylitis, and we may have psoriatic arthritis. In large joints, we can have ankylosing spondylitis, reactive, and sarcoidosis. So these arthritis 3 can present with knee pain, ankle pain, and swelling, and then we may have symmetrical and asymmetrical arthritis. So what are the most common causes of acute monoarthritis? So we may have crystal induced, which means gout. We may have infection, septic arthritis, and then there can be traumatic lesions. The common causes of oligoarthritis, where 4 or less joints are involved. So we may have reactive, psoriatic, ankylosing, gonococcal, and the list is long, but the most common culprit in this category is reactive and psoriatic usually. Now, why I have highlighted important differential diagnosis which should be kept in mind before going on to diagnosis, like we were discussing about. So septic arthritis, polymyalgia rheumatica, paraneoplastic syndrome, and endocarditis. So these are 4 important arthritis mimics which should be differentiated. And in India, definitely tuberculosis is something which I see very commonly here, which presents with polyarthritis. So what are the evolving trends in rheumatoid arthritis? So what is early RA? So recent 4-5 years now we are seeing something called early RA, and I'll tell why it is important. And we have timeline of rheumatoid arthritis therapies. We have 3 type of therapies: conventional synthetic DMARDs, biological DMARDs, and then we have JAK inhibitors, and then we have newer therapies in research. So RA is a symmetrical polyarthritis, which involves mainly the small joints. Occasionally, large joints can also be involved. So worldwide, it has a prevalence of 0.4 to 1%. So initially, we had 1987 RA classification criteria, and then came 2010 classification criteria. Now, the important point is both these criteria are not for diagnosis. These criteria were made for research studies so that, we can put homogeneous population at a test certain medicines. So these criteria should not be used for research purposes, for diagnosis. So what was the difference in 1987 and 2010 classification criteria? So in 1987 criteria, they said that 4 of the following 7 should be met in a patient to be diagnosed as, labeled as rheumatoid arthritis. And the pain should be present for at least 6 weeks. Irrespective of anything, the patient will have pain for at least 6 weeks. The negative points about these criteria were they had included erosions on radiographs and rheumatoid nodules. Now, these 2 things were something which is seen in very late stage of rheumatoid arthritis, which we call as burnt therapy will not help much in a patient. So 2010 classification criteria were developed so that the newer therapies like biologicals and other JAK inhibitors can be tested. It was a point-based scoring system. So, even in the duration of symptoms less than 6 weeks. So by this criteria, we could even classify patients whose duration of symptoms was even less than 6 weeks of duration. And the other thing was anti-CCP, which is also known commonly in rheumatology as ACPA. These tests were included in these criteria. So what is the difference? The main difference was synovitis was redefined as active synovitis in at least 1 joint. Second, as I told you, positivity for anti-CCP or ACPAs were added, and inflammatory markers were also added to these criteria. The things like morning stiffness, rheumatoid nodules, and erosions, periarticular osteopenias, and radiographs were removed from these criteria. Now, 2010 ACR classification criteria were developed to ensure that DMARD therapies, the normal medicines like methotrexate and everything, they are implemented at the earliest stage of RA. So what exactly is early RA? So initially, anything less than 5 years was called as early RA. Then we progressed to 1 to 2 years. And now recently they said that early RA is something which is seen within 3 to 6 months of rheumatoid onset, as erosions are reported in 25% of the patients within these 3 months of disease. So why it is important to diagnose and treat early? So evidence which suggests that first 3 months, the disease is immunopathologically different than what we see in the later disease. And later disease is known as window of opportunity. So many of my patients ask me that whether this I have to take medicines for long, how long and everything. So, everything depends that how early the treatment was started. So decision and outcome of arthritis depends on this factor. Why was there need for early intervention and therapy? So there are evidence which suggests that early interventions can lead to greater improvement in clinical outcome and greater reduction. And in fact, many patients can go into remission also. The studies also report that there is a median delay from the symptom onset to assessment by a rheumatologist of 24 weeks or longer. So patients usually don't reach rheumatologist very early. So we tend to see most of the patients after 1 to 2 years of onset. So as RA progressive, treatment becomes more and more difficult, and this delay in treatment leads to functional deterioration. So what are the goals for treatment of RA? So one is we want our patients to go into remission, which are the clinical outcomes. So inflammation should be reduced, the pain should be reduced, the quality of life should be good. Then we have radiographic outcomes, their joint should not damage. And then we have functional outcomes, that daily activities of things should be well maintained. So this chart is very, very important. So it tells us what is the natural progression of RA and how exactly with medicines we can alter the course of rheumatoid arthritis. So this yellow line tells us what is the natural course of rheumatoid arthritis. Now this is what happens when the late treatment is started. So treatment was started somewhere here after the diagnosis. So by treatment I mean the exact dose of medicines, the exact schedule which has to be given, and for the exact period which it has to be given. So this is the late treatment. This is the early treatment, which means that the medicines were started very early in the initial stage of rheumatoid arthritis. And then this is early aggressive treatment, which is the latest trend in rheumatoid arthritis. So all the literature about RA is now filled with this, that early aggressive treatment is something which should be done in all the patients of rheumatoid arthritis, and many patients will end up in remission also. So there is greatest effect on the long-term patient outcomes and prevention of irreversible joint damage. So what are the predictors of disease persistent? So in general, if someone asks me that whether this patient is going to behave, his RA is going to behave very badly or how exactly, so some predictors help us. Anyone who has a positive rheumatoid factor and positive NTCC disease as compared to someone whose these tests are negative. Elevated acute phase reactants are also very important. Female gender is very important. Males comparatively, the disease is milder and it responds better to a therapy as compared to females. And hand involvement, cigarette smoking, definitely it is the most important factor in disease progression. Now, what are the history of RA treatment? So first time in 1948, rheumatoid factor was isolated. In 1950, steroids came in for the treatment of autoimmunity. The best medicine till today, which is methotrexate, it came for treatment in 1988, then came multiple biologicals. So, every year consecutively we saw newer and newer medicines. Etanercept came in 1998, tocilizumab came in 2009, and then tofacitinib for RA, which are JAK inhibitors, and baricitinib, they came in 2012 and 2018. How actually the treatment for RA is defined? So we have three types of treatment for rheumatoid arthritis. We have conventional synthetic DMARDs, we have targeted synthetic DMARDs, and then we have biological medicine. So I'll try to cover small points about all. So conventional synthetic DMARDs are the cheaper medicines which are widely available anywhere. The most important drug of this category is methotrexate. So basically, does methotrexate work? It's a weekly medicine, purely weekly, so pill burden is very less. The most important mechanism of action of this medicine is it stimulates adenosine release, which is a predominantly anti-inflammatory compound. It also inhibits macrophages, T cells and B cells, and it also suppresses JAK-STAT signaling pathway. So all these leads to, T cell suppression and macrophage and B cell suppression, which leads to marked relief in the symptoms of rheumatoid. Apart from these other conventional synthetic DMARDs, we have leflunomide, we have sulfasalazine, we have hydroxychloroquine. So hydroxychloroquine has additive metabolic benefit. It controls lipids also. It is good in diabetic patients. Sulfasalazine can be used in combination of other drugs. And leflunomide is as effective as methotrexate, though it's not a very preferable drug in rheumatoid by rheumatologists. Now coming to biological DMARDs. So what exactly are biological therapies? So why are they called biologicals? They are derived from the living organisms or their products, unlike the chemically synthesized drugs. So these medicines are not produced in a factory or somewhere. We need very big plants for them to be manufactured. They are live cytokines which are produced in our body. So of these biologicals, the predominantly used in RA are B cell inhibitors, which is rituximab, anti-CD20. We have anti-IL-6 inhibitor, which is tocilizumab. We have abatacept. Now this drug is not coming to India. We have anti-TNF medicines, which have etanercept, adalimumab, and infliximab. So this image might seem a bit confusing. I'm going to details of all the cytokines. The only point I wanted to highlight is all the cytokines affects other cytokine in our body. So specific drugs which acts on one cell, they also affect other cytokines. So these medicines usually have multiple effects on our body. Like rituximab predominantly inhibits the B cells. Tocilizumab inhibits the IL-6 levels. Then we have anti-TNF medicines, etanercept, infliximab, which all inhibits anti-TNF in our body. So these biological DMARDs, they target the single cytokine in our body, like IL-6, TNF, like these kind of cytokines are inhibited, which have been found to be increased in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. So anti-TNF medicines, these are the time-tested medicines. Again, the effects are same like methotrexate, but they are very, very powerful medicines.
Ma'am, screen is not visible.
Ma'am,
Hello, can you hear me?
yeah.
It's visible?
No.
No.
Screen is
Screen
not visible?
Yeah.
2 seconds, I'll share it again. Is it visible now? Is it visible now?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can
Is
hear.
it visible now? Is the screen visible?
Yes, it's visible, ma'am.
Is the screen? Okay. So anti-TNFs, they also target the multiple, cells like macrophages, dendritic cells, B cells, and T cells. Then we have anti-CD20 antibody rituximab. It's an injection which is given once in 6 months. So this is not a drug which is very commonly used in rheumatoid arthritis. We use it commonly in vasculitis patients. So it leads to severe hypogammaglobulinemia. So in RA, it has to be repeated very frequently, which can lead to lethal reactions. So we don't very commonly use it in RA. Then we have anti-IL-6 or tocilizumab. It is a monthly injection, which is given every month. The cost of this injection is somewhere around 40,000 a month. Rituximab will cost for an adult somewhere between 32 to 38,000 a month. Then this is a biological trial where biological medicine etanercept was tried to compare to methotrexate or etanercept plus methotrexate. So in the end of the trial, what they found was the effect of methotrexate and etanercept in isolation was almost equal, and which are the ACR20 response. But definitely the combination of etanercept and methotrexate fared better. But this trial told us that even the methotrexate, the conventional medicine which we have been using for years, works very well in rheumatoid arthritis. So this is the same study where they had looked out for etanercept plus methotrexate compared to methotrexate, and there were 2 switch arms where they had seen that how much this medicine works in long term. So at the end, they found that definitely biological medicines fare better than the normal conventional synthetic DMARDs. But when we talk about long-term outcomes in 2 to 3 years, these medicines have almost similar effect as when we see of methotrexate. The only thing is they start working very fast. Methotrexate takes some time to start acting. These medicines start working in 5 to 10 days. So they found that combination therapy was better. The patients had significantly better radiographic outcome, and they had the efficacy was sustained to 2 years. So, and even 40 to 50% of the patients achieved remission, which means that they were free of their disease. These percentage of patients. But there are still unmet needs for biological. It's not that all the biologicals works in all the patients. Many of the patients report secondary loss of efficacy. Some never respond to biologicals. They say कि इतना महंगा दवाई लिया कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ा. These injections need to be infused or injected, so may not be appropriate for many patients. And above all, these are very strong immunosuppressants. So, they can reactivate any kind of infection or tuberculosis which is there in your body. So one has to be very careful while prescribing these medicines. So there have been several trials which have compared various medicines, and it has been found that tocilizumab and tofacitinib are the two medicines which are the most effective medicine for rheumatoid arthritis till date. Now, this is something which has been in news recently. So these are JAK inhibitors. So they are the intracellular signaling pathways which we are targeting with these medicines. So these are simple medicines which are made in simple factories. Previously, this medicine costed something around 16,000 a month. So this is a very potent immunosuppressant. Like, see, if we have a single cytokine, so it will affect only one cytokine. But in JAK inhibitors, multiple cytokines are inhibited in the same time. So like the medicine which we have tofacitinib, it will inhibit these many cytokines, these cytokines, and these cytokines because they inhibit JAK1 and JAK2. So these are very, very, very potent immunosuppressants as compared to our biologicals. They are very potent immunosuppressants. So we have medicines in this category. We have tofacitinib, baricitinib, and we have upadacitinib. So tofacitinib is something which is widely available in India. So there are adverse effects with these drugs. So there can be elevation in liver enzymes, there can be cytopenias, there is definitely increased risk of infections, and these medicine can cause venous thromboembolism, which is a concern with JAK inhibitors. There are certain future target also like toll-like receptors, Breton tyrosine kinase, and transforming growth factor betas and neuropathways, dendritic cells. These are being studied recently in the research, and they may come for treatment of rheumatoid arthritis probably in next 5 years. So the emerging trend in rheumatoid arthritis. So in RA, the more time spent with joint inflammation means more damage. So we need a early and aggressive treatment for rheumatoid arthritis. Early diagnosis and early treatment, keeping in mind the window of opportunity is very important. Now, with the available of biologicals, dependence on steroids have definitely reduced to a certain extent, and definitely we can now avoid corticosteroids altogether. Otherwise, previously in 80s and early 90s, it was being said that there is no treatment for rheumatoid apart from corticosteroids. So in current time, it will be wrong to say that there is no treatment apart from corticosteroids. Many of our patients are free of steroids. So I have many patients who have not taken even a single tablet of steroid for last 1 year. So definitely we get to see patients where the disease goes into remission and they don't require steroids for long term. Thank you.
Wagmare, sir. Sir, you are not audible. Sir, unmute yourself.
Yeah, unmuted. Can you hear me?
Now you can hear it.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Yeah.
Good evening.
That was a nice talk, Dr. Isha.
Yes.
Yes. So, from my side, I would like to ask you a few questions. For a primary contact physician, either a general practitioner or an orthopedician, what blood investigations do you recommend to be done? If we
So in arthritis, the routine investigation, which are the part of the, see, it also depends on the presentation of the patient, that how exactly your patient has presented. Like I was talking to Dr. Sheila. So I told her that when the manifestations are like hair loss and everything, we have to do ANS. Otherwise, the routine investigation, which include CBCs, ESRs, which also include rheumatoid factors and anti-CCPs. So these are the initial investigations, which has to be done in all the patients with rheumatoid arthritis. And as a rheumatologist, because we have to start on DMARD, so we usually do liver profile, liver function test, and kidney function test before starting any medicine.
Okay, and importance of anti-CCP and RA factor. Could you just put some light on that?
So see, ideally it has to be done in all the patients. 100% without RF and anti-CCP, no patient can be treated. So unless and until we have an evidence that there is something going on inside, whether it is rheumatoid arthritis or not rheumatoid arthritis, it has to be done. Some percentage of patients may have RF and anti-CCP negative, which is a 20% of the population. But in those scenarios, as I had presented in one of the table, we have to be very sure that this is not any paraneoplastic or infectious syndrome. Otherwise, we'll give those patients immunosuppressants, and if there is some malignancy going on inside or some infection, then it may flare up. So those points are very important.
Okay, and what is your protocol for treatment for patients with post-viral fever polyarthralgia? Few patients with dengue fever
Sorry.
they present post-viral fever
Okay,
polyarthralgia.
so see, most of the patient with post-viral arthritis or post-viral arthritis, they usually recover on their own. 90% of
Okay.
the patient only need NSAIDs,
Hmm.
non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Rarely there can be 5% of the patients who may require low-dose steroids, but in my clinical experience, most of the patients recover with NSAIDs only. Only if in some patients, the pains and the arthritis it lasts for more than 6 to 8 weeks. In those cases, we have to think that whether now this arthritis has converted into rheumatoid arthritis or not. So that is a very important point where we have to see that now this is not only post-viral arthritis. Now this has become something else. So, there are many clinical factors which helps us to define whether this is now early rheumatoid arthritis or something else.
Okay. As you said, the biologics, the treatment is little costly. You have
Yes.
to explain it to the patient, the cost factor and all. Is it covered in Mediclaim, and what is your
No,
protocol?
no. See how it is. In Delhi, we were the largest center who were giving biological treatments, but 90% of our patients, the insurance used to fail only. So
Okay.
the infliximab injections, it will cost something around 60 to 70,000 for a patient, and
Okay.
each injection has to be repeated after 2 months. So the cost goes on to 1,40,000, 1,20,000. And added to that, there has to be admissions, the infusions has to be there, and the injections, you have to be very careful because reactions are also very common. So most of them are not covered. Some of the injections like rituximab, some of the insurance companies cover, but by and large, most of the insurance companies have now realized that these injections has to be taken frequently,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
cannot cover these into their insurance schemes. So most of them are not covered.
Okay. And do you consider steroids in your treatment for those who are not affording to biologics, or they have some liver
Hmm.
complications or some
Defin-
contraindications?
Definitely. See,
Mm.
definitely. Biological, obviously, steroid is something which has been used for last 50 years. And it's not, see, I get to see many patients who are already afraid of steroids. And the first thing they tell me when they come are, please don't give us steroid. So
Okay.
that is the first thing. And definitely, it's very difficult to counsel a patient that, see, steroid is something which has to be given in the initial period of rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
But giving someone steroid for long term, at least for more than 6 months, then definitely it will not be possible to stop steroids anytime in their life. It becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah.
When they stop suddenly, patient may land up in ICU, they may get hypotension, and they may go into shock also. So we always
Okay.
should consider that steroids are to be given only in the initial few months of the therapy. It should not exceed a specific period. So patients,
Mm.
I usually tend to explain all my patients that what the
Okay.
protocol will be, how long the steroid will be given, and why steroids are to be given.
Yeah, because sometimes they realize after taking this particular tablet I feel better, so they take on their own. That is
They
what I
keep
have
on,
seen.
yes, exactly. Most
Yeah.
of the patients, they say that it's 10 rupee tablet and we are getting better, so we'll keep on
Yeah,
taking. So we
cost
have
is
to
also less.
explain to every patient.
Okay.
Yes. So we have to explain to every patient.
Okay. uh, there is one question from Dr. Jayantilal Gala sir.
Yes.
He is asking whether after use of biological agents, the life expectancy of patients has increased in your practice. What do you see?
Sorry, the life expectancy has, sorry.
Of patients, has it increased after use of biologicals? After
Okay,
use of
so you are
biologicals, yes.
asking me. Okay, so if you ask me specifically for arthritis other than rheumatoid arthritis, then in that there is now evidence like vasculitis and all biologicals has definitely increased the life expectancy. And now even the latest trials show that biological suppresses the inflammation in the body, which leads to decreased mortality from cardiac diseases, not from the rheumatoid. See, we have to see RA patients die early, not because of rheumatoid. They die early because they get MI in the later life because of the chronic
Okay.
inflammation which is going on inside their body. So, you know, if
Hmm.
we have some medicine which can suppress this inflammation in the body, the
Hmm.
atherosclerosis which occurs because of the chronic inflammation gets suppressed, and definitely the life expectancy increases. So there have been many
Increases.
trials where they have found that life expectancy increases with use of biology.
Yeah. So, in short, we should all understand that rheumatoid arthritis is not a disease of joints. It is a
Yes, it
systemic
can.
disease.
Yes, yes. ILD is very common. We get to see lung involvement very commonly in RA. Then apart from lungs, you know, there can be many other organs like Sjogren syndrome occurs very commonly in RA. Dry eyes, dry mouth syndrome is very common in RA. So, you know, all
Yes.
of these are very common.
Regular eye checkup is also important.
If we are giving hydroxychloroquine, then definitely it has
Yes.
to be done.
Okay. There is one question from Dr. Akshay Nakarani, sir. He is
Yes.
asking about availability of baricitinib.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cost, sir is asking
Availability.
cost.
Availability. Yeah.
Okay, so it's easily available. See, it is made by Lilly, so that's an American company which comes with baricitinib.
Okay.
Baricitinib is easily available. The only problem with baricitinib is the cost of the medicine. So, you know, the monthly cost of baricitinib is somewhere around 24,000 a month. You know,
Okay.
so to counsel a patient that you have to take a pill 4 milligram per day and you have to pay 24,000 rupees for that, it is almost next to impossible in India. So it is definitely available in India, but you know, it gets we cannot give it to every patient. You know, rarely we get to see patients who say ki, yes, we'll take this medicine. So it's
Hmm.
widely available. Definitely it will not be available with the pharmacies. The companies directly supply these tablets to the patient, so you will not get it in any pharmacy.
Okay. Gout, particularly, what is your protocol for gout? As in, when do you use
uh,
colchicine
See,
and yeah.
treatment, see, gout is see, there are two different things. So uric acid is something I see very commonly. Every patient coming me and telling me that I have uric acid and I
Hmm.
have pains because of uric acid. So the first thing I want to just clear that increased uric acid is not gout. So
Okay.
gout is a specific disease where it occurs in middle-aged men only. In females, we don't see gout. Not every increase in uric acid is gout. Uric acid can be increased in our body and yet we may not have any problem in our body. So we should
Okay.
not treat any uric acid because a patient comes and tells that I have joint pains. We should definitely not treat that uric acid. Gout
Hmm.
specifically occur when a middle-aged man comes to us with a complaint of severe pain in the ankle or the toes. There is redness in the joint. There is severe pain. There is difficulty in walking. All these symptoms suggest gout. Initial treatment for gout is definitely non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and then we definitely use colchicine in acute gout, and in some cases steroids also have to be used if patient is not getting better with these medicines, then we use steroids also.
Okay. One more question from Dr. Ravi Joshi, sir. He is asking about how frequently should LFT be done, liver function test, when the patient is on methotrexate.
So ideally every 3 to 4 months, 2 to 3 months. See, it depends what dose of methotrexate patient is taking. So ideally two to
Okay.
three months it should be done. According to the all international guidelines, every 2 to 3 months it should be done.
So every 3 months should be ideal. And
Yes,
when we
yes,
see the
ideally.
enzymes are raised, we should either reduce the dose of methotrexate or stop it.
See, ideally it depends how much the enzymes are elevated. Most of the cases we
Okay.
have to stop methotrexate altogether in most of the
Hmm.
cases.
Okay, so one more question from Dr. Vinayak Desai, sir. He's asking, what are GP's job after starting biological agent or DMARDs from rheumatologist? So he's asking basically what they should do when the patients come to them for follow-up
So
regarding.
like they are on biological. So you know
Yes.
they have to first of all, is there any complaint of any fever or is there any symptom of any infection anywhere on the body
Okay.
in the body? Because biologicals, the most important problem with biologicals is risk of infection increases.
Yes.
So there are certain
tuberculosis.
biologicals which increase tuberculosis. There are certain
Yeah.
other biologicals which increases skin infections. So we
Hmm.
have to look out for any sign of any infections anywhere in the body. So that is the most important thing.
Okay.
Ma'am, what about the deformities, ma'am? Can we correct the deformities, the patients who present with deformities, and they find it difficult to do the daily activities like
No, no, no. So there is, see, that's why I had added the slides of early RA. See, once a patient has got deformities, we cannot reduce deformities. So he'll remain like this. So with the medicines which we are giving in a deformed patient, we are just trying to, reduce further progression of any deformities, any new deformities occurrence. We cannot reduce the deformities with the medicines which are already there. There are certain splints which are there for these patients. There are certain splints for the fingers also, which patients uses, so that it's open to easy to open the door knobs and everything. But we cannot reduce these deformities. Now, if deformities develop, then the role of a surgeon, a finger, those who deal with the
Hand surgery.
all of these, the role of these surgeons come into the picture.
those can be corrected, ma'am, with surgery.
No, see, most of the patients, we had seen 4 or 5 patients who went for the surgeries also. Most of the time, surgeries are not successful. 90% of the time, they are never successful.
No, one more reason for unsuccessful surgery is there is very high risk of infection in rheumatoid arthritis patients. Even patients with severe knee deformities, those who go for TKR, there is high risk of infection if the patient is rheumatoid arthritis patient compared to osteoarthritis patients.
मेरा? उसको बिठाना है थोड़ी।
There are many other questions.
Yes. There is one more question. He is asking about what is the cutoff of RA factor in particular to diagnose rheumatoid arthritis, because
No,
sometimes
see, the cutoff of rheumatoid factor depends on which kit the lab is using. We'll see
okay.
certain labs which give us cutoff of 10. We see certain labs which give us cutoff of 18. It also depends on which method was used for rheumatoid arthritis. So by and large, we use more than 3 times elevated rheumatoid factor as significant rheumatoid arthritis. So on a cutoff of 20, if someone has 60 rheumatoid factor, then that is supposed to be strong positive.
There's
Okay.
one more question from Dr. Ravi Joshi, ma'am. If a patient has typical symptoms of RA, but seronegative, and he's not able to afford other investigations, so can we justify in starting methotrexate empirically?
See, definitely we can do that unless and until, I told you, infections we have to rule out, and see, recently I saw a patient who came with polyarthritis, typical seronegative arthritis, was not affording, RF and CCPs were negative. So we thought we'll start her on methotrexate. And, 3 months later, we started seeing the skin rashes. So she never had rheumatoid arthritis. She had Hansen's disease, leprosy. So, even these kind of infections can present with polyarthritis. So we have to be very careful sometimes while dealing with seronegative arthritis. We can start. It depends on judgment of the clinician, that you feel that no infection is there, you can start definitely.
Okay, ma'am, is methotrexate oral tablet better or
Injection.
So see, when the dose, we have to give more than 15 milligram of the dose, then definitely injections we have to give. Up to 15 milligram, the oral tablet can also be given.
Okay, one question is about psoriatic arthritis. So can biologicals be used in psoriatic arthritis?
Yes, widely. See, psoriatic arthritis has now its own biologicals, which is known as sacucumab. So
Okay.
it's a scafo injection, which is given weekly for 4 or 5 weeks, and then it's given monthly. And the response are dramatic. Everything from the skin goes. The joints get very, very good, almost, like non-arthritis. Only issue is affordability. It's costly injection. The monthly cost will be somewhere around 20,000 a month.
Okay.
Ma'am, can we get false positive RA, ma'am?
Yes, definitely. It's very common. See, you get false positive RA in rheumatoid arthritis, in infective endocarditis. You get false positive in tuberculosis. In India, definitely, tuberculosis is the cause. In Brucella also, we have seen false positive rheumatoid factor. Infections, any infection in the body can stimulate B cells, and these B cells lead to production of false positive rheumatoid factor.
So all
Even some
positive RA
malignancies. Sorry?
all positive RA should not
Sorry?
be considered as rheumatoid arthritis.
Yes, definitely. All positive RF should not be considered as rheumatoid arthritis.
Ma'am, one more thing regarding uric acid, ma'am. Like
Yes.
you told, every elevated uric acid is not gout.
Yes.
So if a patient comes, like they do all those health checkups and they come with elevated uric acid, and if they are not on any diuretics or any medicines,
Yes.
so those uric acid should be left alone or they should be treated.
Yeah, no, it should not be treated. See, I'll tell you, only if a uric acid level is more than 12 in a male and more than 10 in a female, sorry, opposite, 10 in a male and 12 in a female, that should be treated. Otherwise, anything less than 10 and asymptomatic should not be
Should
treated.
not be treated. Okay.
No, should not be treated.
What's the cause for those patients? What's the cause of?
See, some people are under excretors. You know, uric acid is a metabolite which is made in our body when the cells degrade. So some people have certain genes in their body because of which the uric acid is not excreted easily from the kidneys. So they may have family history, you know, कि सबका ज़्यादा ही रहता है uric acid. So that can be familial. Unless and until it leads to gout, only then it needs to be treated. It should not be treated. See, uric acid को ज़्यादा कम कर देंगे, if you lower it to a very lower level, people will start getting Alzheimer disease, dementias and everything. So uric acid is very important for our body also.
Okay. So even those patients who are on diuretics, you know, diuretics tend to cause raised uric acid.
No,
So
we should not give. See,
should-
unless and until clear-cut indication, we should not give.
We should not-
Unless someone is, see,
Not
someone is having uric acid stones, someone is having a gout, someone is having a uric acid level more than 10 or 12, only then it should be treated. Otherwise, it should not be treated.
Okay.
What dietary advice do you give to your patients of gout? Dietary
For
advice.
gout or rheumatoid?
Gout,
Sorry, which
gout.
patients?
Gout patients.
See, gout latest guideline says the vegetable protein is not something which will cause any increase in uric acid. So red meat, fish, two things are there in the diet which has to be reduced. And apart from this, any, you know, aerated drinks like cola drinks and everything, they have to be reduced. Artificial sugar drinks and all have to be reduced. Dietary vegetable protein does not increase uric acid in our body. So we should not, you know, alcohol is a very biggest factor which increases uric acid. So these are 3-4 dietary advice.
Okay. I think the questions are over from the audience's side. Over to you, sir. Jignesh, sir.
Okay, friends, I think so no any more questions remain. It is very interesting and informative question answer session. So thank you, Dr. Isha Sood madam and Dr. Santosh Wagmare sir.
Thank
Now
you.
here I am requesting our chairperson come our lovable DMA member, Dr. Sheila Rathod madam, to give the vote of thanks.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank our guest webinar speaker, Dr. Isha Sood, for her enlightening us with her knowledge. Today's webinar was full of knowledge and practical tips which will be very useful in a family practice. She had answered all our questions. Thank you, ma'am, once more. I would also like to thank Dr. Santosh Wagmare and DMA for conducting such webinars on regular basis and helping us family physicians. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants for patiently listening through this webinar, without whom this webinar wouldn't have been a success. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sheila Rathod madam. Dear friends, today is the 18th webinar of our series, and usual Dr. Isha Sood madam is delivering excellent lecture to us and updating our knowledge about new trend in a rheumatoid arthritis, which is really useful to us in our general practice. So thank you, Dr. Nisha Sood madam,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Santosh Wagmare sir, Dr. Ravi Joshi sir, Dr. Sheila Rathod madam, and Dr. Vinayak Desai sir. Behalf of the Daisar Medical Association, here I am Dr. Jignesh Vasan Chauhan, announce the end of today's webinar session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.